They will test you. The world, the pain, the silence, all of it. It's coming for you. Not because you're weak, but because there is something in you that's too strong to leave unshaped. Life doesn't destroy the fragile. It refines the unbreakable. You want to know who you are. Wait until everything falls apart. Watch how you breathe when the air is thick with disappointment. Watch how you stand when no one is cheering. Watch how you move when the path disappears beneath your feet. That's where you'll meet the real you. And that's where the real you will decide who you become. You were not born to be average, not built to break. You were designed with fire in your blood, thunder in your voice, and the bones of your ancestors who survived far worse than fear. But here's the truth no one wants to say. You don't become unbreakable by avoiding pain. You become unbreakable by walking through it, again and again, and refusing to be reshaped by anything smaller than your purpose. That's the crucible. That's the forge. That's the place where champions are built and cowards collapse. And if you're hearing this now, it means there is something in you the world hasn't fully seen yet. But it's time. The reason most people stay broken is because they confuse comfort with healing. But comfort is a liar. It's the padded cell that slowly silences your potential. Healing comes through confrontation, with your fears, your habits, your excuses, your lies. You want peace. You must fight for it. You want power. You must earn it. You want to be the kind of person nothing can break. Then, you must first become the kind of person who breaks everything that once held them back. That starts in the mind, because the mind is the battlefield. And it's not a battle of strength. It's a battle of standards. What do you tolerate? What do you allow? What thoughts are given real estate in your mind? Most people lose not because they're weak, but because they've trained themselves to submit the moment it hurts. But champions lean in. Champions stare into the fire and say, "Burn me if you must. I will not bend," because discipline is the armor of the unbreakable. Napoleon Hill said, "Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always." That's not philosophy, that's law. You don't get stronger by thinking about it. You get stronger by putting yourself in the furnace and refusing to melt. Look at Edison. How many times did he fail before the light bulb worked? Thousands. But it didn't break him. It built him. He didn't cry at failure. He studied it. He didn't flinch when the world mocked him. He expected it. Because the unbreakable don't need permission. They don't need applause. They don't need the outcome to feel worthy of the effort. They are driven not by results, but by identity. And identity isn't about where you are. It's about who you decide to become in the fire. You want to become the person who can't be broken. Then stop living like the person who's afraid to be uncomfortable. Because the life you want will not be handed to you. It must be claimed. It must be built. And yes, it must be suffered for. But in that suffering is a revelation. That pain didn't come to bury you. It came to baptize you into something deeper,
Stronger, truer.
You don't need easier. You need clarity, clarity of vision, clarity of values, clarity of who you are without your titles, your trophies, your followers. Because what can't be taken can't be broken. That's power. That's peace. That's who you are when you rise without applause. When you walk forward without a guarantee. When you face the darkness and still carry the light. Not because you never break, but because you always rebuild. The war isn't out there. It's in here. The words you speak to yourself at 5:00 a.m. The thoughts that fill the silence when no one's watching. The beliefs that shape your reactions when pressure knocks at your door. You want to become the person who can't be broken. Then you must rewire your thinking until your beliefs become unshakable. Not because they're blind, but because they're chosen. Your mind is not a mirror of the world. It's the molder of it. And if you allow fear, doubt, and comparison to live there rent-free, you will always be a tenant in someone else's vision. But the second you decide, not wish, not hope, but decide, to believe differently, you begin the process of resurrection. You begin the process of internal revolution. Because here's what no one taught you: belief is a weapon. It is forged, not found. It is chosen daily. And the champions, the unbreakable ones, they don't wait for evidence. They build belief first. And the evidence follows. That's how Carnegie built steel empires out of nothing but conviction. That's how Disney sketched fantasy when the world called him a failure. That's how Ford imagined machines moving faster than horses while everyone else laughed. They weren't just creators, they were believers. And belief is the birthplace of all transformation. The problem with most people is they only believe what they can see. But champions, they see what they believe. They walk by inner sight. They speak as if the vision already lives. They act like the outcome is inevitable. Not because they're delusional, but because they've decided that who they are becoming is more real than where they are now. You don't wait to feel like the person you want to be. You think, speak, move, and decide as if you are already that person. Now. And the brain, the body, the energy, the world. They all start to align with the story you're telling. That's how mindset works. It's not positive thinking. It's identity programming. You either program your mind intentionally, or it gets programmed by fear, by culture, by trauma, by failure, by people who gave up on themselves and want you to do the same. You want to be unbreakable, then make belief your baseline. Not belief that it will be easy, not belief that everything will go your way, but belief that no matter what happens, you will not fold, you will not forget who you are. It is in your mind where the unbreakable version of you already exists. But you must dig, you must fight for it. You must clear away every thought that says, I'm not enough. Every whisper that says, this is too hard. Every echo of your past that tries to shrink your future. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not your fear. You are the decision you make right now. To think differently. To speak power into your own chest. To rise when you have every excuse to quit. To rebuild when nothing is left but will. And in that decision, that moment of mental defiance, you begin to carve out a new foundation, a new structure, a new standard. And that's when people start to notice. That's when the world begins to respond. Because what you believe becomes what you build. Clarity is the blade that cuts through chaos. And without it, even the strongest man will fall to confusion. The world is loud. The distractions are relentless. The opinions, the noise, the glittering detutors that pull you off purpose. They are everywhere. And if you are not clear, you will be conquered. But champions, the unbreakable ones, are never confused. Not because life is simple, but because their vision is sacred. They know what they are building. They know why they wake up. They know what matters and what doesn't. Clarity gives birth to focus, and focus is how you put the world on its knees. You don't need more motivation. You need more direction. When you wake up with a vision so sharp it burns in your gut, you don't hit snooze. You rise like it's a holy calling. Because when the purpose is strong enough, the pain becomes irrelevant. Most people are stuck not because they're lazy, but because they are unclear. They say they want more, but more of what? More money, more respect, more peace. Clarity doesn't chase more. It defines why. And once you know your why, your reason, your root, then you build your life around it like a fortress. Vision is not about what you see with your eyes. It's about what you see with your spirit. You don't need evidence. You need alignment. Walt Disney saw castles when he had pennies. Elon Musk saw rockets when all he had were rejections. Martin Luther King Jr. saw freedom when the world was shackled by hate. Vision is the currency of the unbreakable. Because when the outer world says, you can't, the inner vision screams, I already did. You hold the future in your hands every time you imagine it with belief. But most let that image fade. The world talks them out of it. Fear chips away at it. And before they know it, they're living in a life designed by other people's doubts. But not you. Not if you decide to protect that vision with everything you've got. If you want to be the person who can't be broken, you must treat your vision like it's already real. Because if you don't, no one else will. Now listen carefully. This is where most lose their firing. They see the vision. They feel the calling. They touch the dream and then they hesitate. They say, what if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What if it's too late? But the unbreakable don't ask, what if? They ask, what now? Because purpose doesn't live in your comfort. It lives in your courage. It is not enough to see the vision. You must move toward it relentlessly. Through doubt, through loss, through silence, through storms. Purpose isn't some soft, pretty feeling. It is steel. It is fire. It is movement through resistance. Because what calls you is bigger than what scares you. And the day you start living like your purpose matters more than your problems, that's the day you become dangerous. That's the day you become bulletproof. The world does not need more people chasing shiny things. It needs more people rooted in unshakable vision. People who move like their breath is borrowed and their time is sacred. Because when you are aligned with your reason for breathing, you don't flinch when life hits. You anchor deeper. You fight smarter. You rise faster. And that is what makes you unbreakable. Not your strength, not your speed, not your title, but the fact that you know exactly why you refuse to quit. It is the daily contract you sign with your future. Not when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. Because let me tell you something you already know in your bones. Motivation fades, emotion lies, inspiration flickers. But discipline decides. It is the quiet hammer that shapes greatness before the world ever notices. It is the reason champions show up in the dark, when no one claps, when no one watches. It's the reason they win, long before they're handed a trophy. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It commands you to act regardless. You want to become the person who can't be broken. Then you must move like your destiny depends on it, because it does. Understand this: every action you take is a vote for the person you're becoming. So what are you voting for? Distraction or domination? Excuses or evolution? Comfort or calling? You're not stuck because life is hard. You're stuck because you haven't decided that discipline matters more than moods. Champions move anyway. They train anyway. They speak life into themselves anyway. They follow the plan after the emotion is gone, because the plan is rooted in purpose, and purpose doesn't expire. Do you think Carnegie always felt like working 16-hour days building his empire of steel? Do you think Ford always felt like revolutionizing the world with machines no one believed in? Do you think the Wright brothers waited to feel ready before they took flight? No, they didn't feel ready. They felt called. And that was enough. Action is the amplifier of belief. You can think all the right things. You can believe all the right truths. But if you don't move, you will drown in your own potential. You want confidence, then act. You want progress, then act. You want to reprogram your identity so deeply that nothing can shake you, then act now. Not next week, not when it's easier, not when you feel like it. Now, because movement creates momentum, and momentum destroys doubt. The people you admire, the legends, the lions, the unshakable titans of history, they weren't special. They were decided. They moved when others hesitated. They walked when others waited. They climbed when others collapsed. They acted on their standards, not their feelings. Let me ask you something brutal and honesting. What would your life look like if you did what you said you would? If you showed up every day with fire in your chest and discipline in your spine? If you treated your goals like survival, not suggestion? Most people flirt with their potential, but the unbreakable, they marry it, they commit, they build rituals around it, they bleed for it. Because to them, success is not an outcome. It is an identity. It is not something they wait for. It is something they live into. One rep, 1 hour, one decision at a time. You don't become unbreakable by chance. You become unbreakable by ritual, by repetition, by choosing growth when your body says stop, by choosing vision when your mind says quit, by choosing faith when the results haven't shown up yet. Because you're not doing this for today. You're doing this for the person you refuse to die without becoming. So move. Now. Like you're being watched by the future you. The version that already made it. Already lived it. Already knows what it feels like to wake up fulfilled, focused, free. Move like you're being measured by something greater than comfort. Move like the world is waiting for you to arrive. It is not passive. It is not soft. It is not the smile you wear when things go your way. Gratitude, real gratitude, is the roar of a soul that says, even this serves me. Even the pain, even the silence, even the delay, the doubt, the detour. It all has purpose. It all has weight. And the unbreakable don't just accept it. They bless it. Because when you operate from gratitude, you stop fighting the current. You stop resenting the journey. You stop asking why me, and start saying, try me. That's not weakness. That's power. That's ownership. That's knowing that life owes you nothing, and yet you choose to love it, serve it, rise inside it anyway. The unbreakable are grateful not because they've had it easy, but because they've learned to extract gold from everything. And here's the truth you don't learn in books, Deji. The most powerful people you'll ever meet, the ones who radiate peace, power, and presence, are the ones who have suffered deeply. But they didn't let the suffering define them. They let it refine them. And their gratitude became their fuel. Not because everything worked out, but because they worked on themselves. Gratitude is the gateway to presence, and presence is the birthplace of power. When you are grateful, you are grounded. You are no longer waiting for life. Get better before you feel whole. You are whole now, and that changes how you move. It's what gives the champion calm in the storm. It's what makes the lion walk with stillness, not panic. Because the unbreakable are not reactive. They are responsive. And that brings us to adaptability. Because the road will never go exactly the way you planned. People will leave. Opportunities will vanish. You will be misunderstood, overlooked, misjudged, doubted, sometimes by those you trusted most. But adaptability says, I bend but I do not break. You see, rigidity is not strength. It's fragility in disguise. You want real strength. You must be like water. Flexible, resilient, relentless, able to flow around any obstacle and carve your way through stone if you must. Champions don't crumble when the plan changes.
They recalculate.
They shift. They move with the change. And they do it with power, not panic. Because they know the mission never changes. Only the method does. And when you're locked into purpose, you stop worshiping. How? You start trusting. Why? You move with intention, not attachment. Life will test your ability to adapt. It will stretch you beyond what you thought was your limit. It will strip away your illusions, your comfort, your timeline, and dare you to rise anyway. But when your identity is not tied to a circumstance, when your peace is not built on predictability, when your fire is not dependent on perfect conditions, you become unstoppable. Not because everything goes right, but because nothing that goes wrong can take you out. You adjust, you adapt, you absorb, you advance, because you are no longer fighting life. You are walking with it. Every change becomes training. Every loss becomes leverage. Every shift becomes a sharpened edge. And that's what it means to be unbreakable. You do not cling to outcomes. You embody becoming. You've walked through the fire. You've heard the call. You've felt the shift inside you. That voice that says, you were never meant to break. You were meant to rise. And now here you stand, not finished, but forged. Not flawless, but fearless. Not invincible, but undefeated. Because the unbreakable don't avoid life. They meet it, with open eyes, with steady hands, with a mind tuned to the frequency of purpose and a heart welded to the rhythm of fire. The world will still throw its chaos. The storms will still scream. The critics will still point. But you'll walk through all of it, not untouched, but unshaken. Because deep in your soul, you've made a decision. I don't run anymore. I build. I don't beg anymore. I create. I don't fear anymore. I become. You've learned the truth few ever dog, that being unbreakable isn't about strength in the body. It's strength in the spirit. It's not measured by how loud you shout when you win, but how calmly you stand when you lose. The world will never hand you what you deserve. So don't wait. Take it. Build it. Forge it. Live it. Write your name in effort. Carve your legacy in discipline. Etch your character into time through the relentless act of becoming. Because that's what this is. It's not motivation. It's not hype. It's not another spark that dies by midnight. It is the awakening of who you were always meant to be. And when the world looks at you and asks you, how are you still standing? How did you rise from that? How did you not give up? You'll smile, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. And you'll answer, not with pride, but with power, because I became the person who cannot be broken. Not by life, not by fear, not by failure, not by anything. This is who you are now, and the world is about to find out.